clients better, especially in this market. Being a buyer's agent is probably the most difficult I've ever seen it in my career, and I've been doing this for 15 years. So looks like we've got a good group here. 10:32, I think we'll start. Again, my name is Michael Del Greco. I'm with New England Realty, and I am a HUD listing broker. And I wanted to talk to you about a little bit about how to make more money and serve your clients better, and get a competitive advantage for being on this event today, because I want you to leave here feeling like it was worth your time, and that hopefully you can have a bit of better business when you leave here. So how do you increase your business with HUD houses? First off, there's a little overview of what we're going to go over. First off, which is nice, this is HUD, part of the HUD contract. They give out a 3% commission. That's their part of their listing contract, that we offer out that 3% buyer broker commission. Obviously, except the good neighbor next door. We'll talk a little bit about what that is later. HUD houses are usually competitively priced, and we'll talk about how to leverage that as well. We'll talk about the net sale only on HUD financing and offers. We'll talk about the $100 down program, the 203K program with the agent bonus, repair escrow, and we'll dive into that a little bit. What a HUD home is, and what the special financing with these properties are, and talk a little bit about condos. So let's jump right in. What is a HUD home? Well, a HUD home is any FHA mortgage that it's basically insured by the government. And so you all have FHA buyers. And if they default on that note, on that loan, and it goes to foreclosure, the lending servicer will then cash in the insurance policy, which the government insures that loan. That's what an FHA loan is. And they will, then it will become a HUD foreclosure. Okay, and that's basically what a HUD home is. That comes into an asset manager, and who I work for, and that asset manager then assigns those foreclosures to us and to other LLBs. And right now, that asset manager is BLB Resources. HUD house, single family, condominium, 4-unit or below. Okay, there are very special incentives, and I like to really jump into this, and I'm going to show you how this works on the offer screen later. The $100 down program. Why is this important to understand? Because we all have buyers that don't have a lot of money, right? They want to buy their first home. They don't have much money, and you're trying to make a deal work for them. You're trying to find them a home. And, you know, in this environment, it's very difficult. But where HUD comes in on these HUD foreclosures is they can actually only have to put a $100 down payment. So typically on a house, an FHA loan, they have to put 3.5% down. Well, if it's a HUD foreclosure and the lender participates in this, and a lot of lenders do, they only have to put $100 down. Now, keep your ears open on this. This is going to get tricky. So typically you have your FHA buyer, you're looking at houses, they have 3.5%. Well, now if they only have to put $100 down, that frees up that 3.5%. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, what that means is that can now be pushed towards the closing costs, right? So you don't have to ask for closing costs and put you in a better competitive advantage. Or, and this is where it's neat, and I'm glad you're all here, you can do what's called a repair escrow with that money and still ask for closing costs. Now, what does a repair escrow mean? A repair escrow means that, say the property needs a roof, right? And normally if you have an FHA buyer who you go see a house and you can see the roof is obviously no good, you're just going to keep on walking, right? You may not do a 203K loan. They may not want to do it. You're just going to walk away. Well, in this case, if the repair is $10,000 or less required, now the buyer has that 3.5%, or they ask for the closing costs from HUD, get the bid, and now they have that 3.5% in the bank. They can use that to replace the roof after the closing. Okay, so that's where this money game happens. They only put $100 down. They get closing cost credit from HUD. They allow up to 3% closing cost credit. Now that 3.5% down could be used towards a repair escrow. They have it in the bank. They can close with a regular FHA loan, use that money to replace the roof. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that when we go to the offer screen. Now, also another little incentive is anytime there's a HUD-owned condo, right? You have a buyer, they're FHA only, they're looking for a condo. We all know how difficult that is because a lot of condo complexes are not FHA approved. If it's a HUD house, it's always FHA approved. So the condominium complex could not be FHA approved. But because this is owned by HUD, this one unit is FHA approved. A lot of people don't know that. So if you have, those buyers are some of them, they're in the lower price point, and a lot of those condo complexes aren't FHA approved. This is an opportunity for them. Okay. Understanding as is. Every HUD house is sold as is where it is. Okay, what does that mean? So typically when you see an owner say as is where it is, a lot of agents really kind of ignore that and say, well, we'll try to negotiate anyway on inspection if something comes up. HUD does not negotiate. Okay, once you have a bid accepted, okay, you can have your home inspections, you can do all your due diligence, but if the buyer wants to negotiate, the only negotiation is to cancel the contract. It goes back on the market, and then the buyer can resubmit a lower offer, but again, they'd be competing on the open market again. That's what happens during inspection periods. Now, if the buyer were to put it under contract and they didn't do a home inspection, say they just, the condition is just not good, that doesn't work. So really your only remedy on HUD houses is to cancel the contract and then resubmit a lower offer. There are no negotiations. Okay, who can buy a HUD home? So there's different periods on HUD houses. I'm not going to dive too deep on that today. We may do that in future series, but you have the owner occupant, which typically when a HUD house first comes to market, they're segregated to the owner occupants and nonprofits. Okay, and there's periods for that, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The second, if they don't sell during that first period, would be the investors. And then third, which is part of the first period, government agencies and HUD approved nonprofits. They usually are lumped in with the owner occupant periods, except for the good neighbor next doors. Owner occupants are given priority within the first cycle. They must occupy the house for a year, and they cannot have participated in a HUD sale for 2 years prior to or after they purchase during the owner occupant period. Okay. If it's in the investor period, there's no restrictions at all. Who cannot buy a HUD home? Basically, this is important for some of you. Some of you may be part of a larger franchise that one of the offices in the state or in another state is a listing broker. So if any of you are in a franchise, and if you don't know, you go to your broker and ask, where they list HUD foreclosures, you or your immediate family or your employees, say you have an assistant, are not allowed to buy a HUD home for yourself. This is very important to know. The last thing you want to do is put a HUD house under contract and then, you know, you spend your money on inspections, and then it comes out that you're related within the company. There's an agent that lists HUD foreclosures. The contract will get canceled. Okay. So it's important that if you don't know, go to your broker today and say, hey, do we have any agents in any of our franchises that list HUD homes? And that's important for you to know. Okay. Any licensed real estate agent can sell a HUD home. Okay. Brokerages actually register with HUD. They get an NAID, and then you register with HUD as an individual agent on HUD Home Store. And we're actually going to do that with you today. And when your broker registers with HUD, they'll receive an NAID number, which will be used by all of you to register as individual agents on the HUD Home Store site. We're not going to get into broker registrations today. We're just going to get into you guys, how you guys can register. If your broker does not have an NAID number and is not registered with HUD, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to put my email in the chat, and then you can have your broker, if they wondering, you know, how to do it, they can email me and I can help them do that. Okay. So we're going to create a bidder account. All right. So we're going to share screen this, and we're going to go through. You can all do this as well if you have dual screens on hudhomestore.com. So this kind of be fun. If you have dual screens, you can pull it up yourself and go through it with us. So what we're going to do is we're going to register as an agent with HUD Home Store. We're going to do this kind of quickly. So where you start is you have the NAID type. Okay, you hit bidder function, NAID type, and you're going to go down to the selling listing broker. Okay, so this now again, this is your broker is already registered with HUD. If they aren't, you're going to be the agent to spearhead getting them to do this, so that you can partake in this part, which we're doing. This is just for agents. You're going to get you're a selling agent. You're going to get your principal broker's NAID number, your real estate license number, not your broker's, yours. If you put your broker's number, license number in there, all the communications are going to go to them and not to you if your bid is accepted. Obviously, you put your date, your state, and expiration. And then see office information there. You're going to add in your office information once you hit that. Okay. Then you'll go down and you'll create your own personal username and password. Okay. And security questions and contact information. And that's how you register to bid on HUD homes as an agent. Okay. And again, your broker has to have an NAID number and be registered with HUD first. And so again, if they're not, I'll leave my email at the end and I can help your broker do that. And you can bug them and spearhead it to get that done. I'm just going to switch back over. So Doug, are we going right into how to submit an offer from here? Sorry, I'm talking to my assistant there. Okay. So once you're registered, now you can log in. Okay. And now when you log in, now you're an agent. You can see at the top, it says Doug St. John. He's handling this behind the scenes. Okay. And now you're registered as an agent on the site and you can do your own searches. Now, I want to teach you how to be at a competitive competitive advantage to the majority of the real estate agents out there who don't know how to do this. Now, say you have a client and you're looking for HUD homes. Now you say, well, why can't I just see it on the MLS? You can see it on the MLS. Here's the issue with that. A HUD house, when they're listed, usually comes on HUD Home Store first, okay? So, and sometimes it will become listed on HUD Home Store site here a full day before it shows on the MLS. And a little reason besides that, we'll get an email and it'll say, okay, list it. Sometimes we won't get that email till 9 o'clock at night. So obviously you might not see the email and it won't come up on the MLS the next day, but it will be here, okay? And so I'm gonna teach you how to set up a search so that you get notified immediately when one, a property is listed, and two, when the status change goes from on deposit to back active. And I'm going to explain why that's important to you and your competitive advantage in getting your buyer the HUD home. So let's start with, so we'll go to Connecticut, right? You're going to start a search. You're going to say, well, I want to know what HUD homes are in the state of Connecticut, right? So you put in Connecticut, and if you want to do a specific city, Doug, back up. Let's do a specific city with this. Okay, so we're going to go in and we'll do a city. Hopefully there's a HUD house there. Southington. Okay. I don't know if there'll be any. Oh, we got one there. Okay. Lakeview Drive. So now you have a search for Southington. So say your buyer's looking in Southington. You have your search now. If you look, there's a gray box above that property, and you're going to see where it says Save Search. Bring that down, Doug, over to the left, Save Search. Yep. So you're going to save search. Okay. Now you have a save search. Well, what does that mean? Now, what do I do with that? And that's why a lot of people don't know about this. So now we're going to go up, and you see at the top of the screen. So now you have a save search for all of Southington. Now here's where your competitive advantage comes in. You go up to bidder function. Okay. And now you're going to see saved searches. You're going to hit that. Pay attention. Now you see where it says edit frequency, alert frequency. Right now, you're not receiving any alerts. And how would you know that? So you're going to hit edit frequency. And you're going to change that to daily. There it is. Okay. And you're going to submit it. Now I'm going to tell you why this is hugely important for you when you're competing and working on HUD homes. As we know, as buyers agents, there are multiple offers on almost every property we step our foot in. We know it when we enter the house. We go, uh-oh, this is multiple offers. What am I going to do about it? Now, you have this Southington search saved, and you're getting an alert. Say you bid on this HUD property, you don't get it, right? But in there you say, well, hold me as a, you don't get the bid, the buyer, whatever, it falls out. Okay. Say it falls out on a Thursday morning. You now have this search saved. That property will move from deposit to active. Okay. Which means it's now active on the market, but it's not showing that on the MLS yet, because usually there's a 24-hour lag time. But you get the alert, it's back on the market. Well, guess what? Your buyer's been sitting there waiting, bothering you every 3 days. What's up with that property? What's up with that property? What's up with that property? We all love that. And you're going to get the notification before anyone sees it on the MLS because of that safe search. You're going to immediately put your offer in, and guess what? If it's in the open daily, which a lot of times they are, and I'll explain to you what that means a little later, the next morning, your offer is the accepted offer. That's your competitive advantage, okay? That's why it's very important to understand how to work this website and be at the front door of these properties when they come off deposit, back active, where your client may have lost that bid. Okay, so let's see. So now this is, are we going back to the slide presentation, Doug? Okay. All right, yes. So let's talk about bidding periods, and then we're gonna go ahead and do a mock offer submission. So when a property is listed, there's different classifications. There's insured, insured with repair escrow. Those are the two ones that you're gonna see the most. And basically all that means is insured just means that they believe, HUD believes, by sending in their appraiser, that it is FHA lendable the way it is. That's insured status. That's what that means. And what does that mean to you? It kind of means, well, sometimes it means something, sometimes it doesn't. It kind of means that you're pretty good assurance that the property is at the minimum FHA required condition. It doesn't mean that definitely. You obviously need to keep your eyes open. Insured with repair escrow, and you'll see this when you pull up the properties in HUD Home Store, means that there are some condition issues that need to be rectified prior to FHA insurability. But that's where that repair escrow comes in, where if the buyer has the funds in the bank, they can close on a regular FHA loan and do the repairs after. Okay, depending on your lender's participation in that. Okay, so then you're gonna have 15-day owner-occupant exclusive period. Okay, and what that means, it's a 15-day period. So what that means is the first 10 days, all offers are submitted on this property. None of them are opened. So they're sealed, they go directly to HUD. HUD collects all the offers in that 10-day period. And if there's an acceptable offer, they will accept it. There's no, if there's an acceptable offer, there's no counter, there's no highest and best, they'll accept it, okay? If there is no acceptable offer in that first 10 days, it then goes to another 5 days exclusive to owner occupants, where they open the offers as they receive them daily, okay? 10 days they're sealed, they open no offers, and then voila, they open them simultaneously, pick the best one. If nothing is acceptable, it goes to another 5 days of daily opening bids, okay? After that 15th day, if there's no acceptable offers by owner occupants, it will go to all bidders, which is investors, so on and so forth. Insured. Okay, this is the other one you need to know. So you have insured, insured repair, escrow, and then uninsured, UI. Basically what that means is there's more than $10,000 worth of work that the property needs. So you can kind of pretty well guess that the property needs substantial repairs that you're going to have to do a 203K. Okay, and that's the only loan that they're going to accept with this, or potentially a conventional financing. And that 5-day owner occupant exclusive, and then on the 6th it opens to everyone. Okay, lottery. So that's good neighbor next door. We're not going to dive into that too much, but basically what good neighbor next door is in special targeted economic zones. If the property is located in that property will not come to the MLS. Okay, because there's no commission structure. It's zero. Okay. And so when good neighbor next doors are listed, which is basically there to support first responders, teachers, so on and so forth, that live in the community, that serve that community, they can then purchase that property for 50% off the HUD appraised value. Okay, so if the price is $100,000, and say it's a nurse that works at the local hospital and they want to live in that house, they can get that house for $50,000. That's not on the market, and you're not going to get a commission unless you get it from the buyer. Okay, that's why you your searches saved. So what you can do is you can research where the targeted economic zones are. You can set up strategic searches in HUD Home Store to notify you when properties go to market. Because again, good neighbor next door is not coming on the MLS. All right. Know about it where no one else will. And then you just, you either decide you're going to donate your time to your buyer and get them the deal, or you get paid directly by the buyer. And that's how that works. And the good neighbor next door, we'll do that as another series in the future. Those are only for owner occupants and nonprofits. Okay, so again, the financing codes, I basically went over those: insurable, insurable with escrow, uninsurable, and uninsurable 203K eligible. They're basically pretty much the same. Uninsurable, even maybe too much repairs needed that it's not even eligible for 203K. It'd be basically cash or hard money only. Okay, the bidding process. This is where we're going to do a mock bid. It's online bidding process. It's very easy. You don't even need your buyer there. What you do need to do, though, is prior to submitting an offer, I like to say, please look at the house, okay? In this highly competitive buyer broker market, we've been getting a lot of sight unseen offers, which the fallout rate on those is probably greater than 60% and wastes everybody's time, including the buyer's agent. So it's really the requirement that you view the property prior to submitting an offer. The other thing you need is the proof that they are qualified to buy the house, or proof of funds. It's important because you'll attest to that in the offer screen. Now, that's about it. And then this is the required information you'll need to submit an offer. But the buyer doesn't have to sign anything. It's just almost like an intent. And you just put in the information and hit submit, and the offer submitted. And we'll go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so first, before we go into submit an offer, Doug, let's go into the addendums. So here you found a property, you're looking at it, and you go into addendums. Now, look at all those pieces of paper, right? How many agents think they have to go in there and read each and every single one of those? You don't. When you're going to submit an offer, the most important one is all the way at the bottom. It's called the Disclosure Pcr. Okay, we'll open that. Okay, and what the PCR does is it basically tells you any information that would need to be disclosed that is known by HUD. Okay, and they know this by doing their own due diligence. Their clean out crew or preservation crew that handles the property, and the FHA appraiser that goes in there, and anything that we as the listing agent may know about the property, it will be there. Usually the most important piece in this is usually the last few sentences in the disclosure. Now, repairs. Here you see plumbing system did not hold pressure. It is winterized. That will tell you right away that, I may need to do a repair escrow, or I may need to do a 203K, depending on the amount of repairs there. Now, just because it only says plumbing doesn't mean that's the only repair that's going to be needed to bring it for an escrow repair or a 203K. Okay, it's important that when you're going through the property and you do your own due diligence, that you notice and incorporate other repairs that may need to be done. So just because it says, insured with repair escrow $3,000, you may go in and say, oh, I see this peeling paint over here. I see this over here. It's actually going to be $6,000 for a repair escrow. So it's up to you to look at that. Now you see here property condition report. This information is not done by a licensed HVAC, a licensed plumber, a licensed electrician. All this information you're looking at is done by the preservation team that initially took the property over that manages it for HUD, which means these were not professionals that created this property condition report. These were just property management crews. So that's why it's important that you don't rely on this for your buyer, that you do your own due diligence and have your own home inspections. And home inspections are a whole nother set to HUD houses, and that will be another little series. It's not that big deal. There's just some special things that are a little different compared to a regular transaction. You see that pressure test fail, which means you're not getting the water on. But that's okay. You do a repair escrow. Say you get a professional in there, they give a bid of $2,500 to fix any potential plumbing repairs. You swap that money over to the repair escrow that you normally would use for your 3.5% down payment. You can close on the property with a regular FHA loan, and the buyer fixes it after he closes. So that's kind of how those pieces fit together. Okay, so now you've looked at that. And then on your own time, if you got nothing to do, you can look at all the other contracts and addendums and send them to your buyer and you, so you kind of understand what you're going to be signing electronically. And it's not all of these. It depends on the transaction. You see a lot of good neighbor next door there, which doesn't apply here, so on and so forth. Okay, so you see the button, submit an offer? That's what we'll do now. Okay, so first, you can see the property. This is in the exclusive period at the top, eligible bidders. You can see that. Okay, and you see a bid submission deadline. That's what, 2/4. So that was just listed 7 days and a few days ago. And so they're not going to be opening bids until February 4th. And the submission deadline is 7 days, 13 hours. Okay, so then you're going to check your NAID. You're going to go into selling broker, and then you're going to put the broker's NAID. Put mine in there. Don't put mine, or else I'm going to make the money on the sale. Okay, your real estate license, which would be the agents, not the brokers. Okay, and then you're going to hit verify. All right, you got it. You got it. You're all set there. Sorry about that. I told you to do the wrong. All right, there you go. So now I'm going to get into some good stuff here, so stay with me. All right, so you have the purchase price. Okay, so you put a purchase price that the buyer wants to offer. Now watch, it automatically populates some stuff there, see? So now it automatically populated your real estate commission, your broker's real estate commission, $34.50. Now, the box above it that's empty is where you can ask for a closing cost credit. They allow up to 3% of a closing cost credit. All right, Doug, we didn't do the what type of financing they're doing. Let me just go over that really quick. So see this 203B? That's just a different internal term for an FHA loan, standard FHA loan. That's 203B, that's what that means. That's what an FHA loan is. And then you have 203K, then you have 203B with repair escrow. So in this case, I think it was a repair escrow. Yep, insured escrow, yes. So in that case, you would say applying for HUD with a repair escrow if it's an FHA buyer, okay? Or if it's not, you can see conventional or paying cash. So in this case, we'll do repair escrow. Oh, it's grayed out, so I guess it's not, Doug. All right, so we'll do the first one. So they're saying this property is in good enough condition to go FHA. So now, here's a little secret. You know this property is getting 20 offers, right? Unbelievably priced. Your buyer says, I am absolutely not going to go higher than asking price. You know you're not going to get the property, right? You can go to your broker and say, hey, can I reduce my commission? They may say no. They may say yes. They may say it's on you. Because HUD, if you look at line 7 is the net to HUD. That's what HUD makes its offer decision on. HUD doesn't care if it's a cash offer or if it's a chaff 100% down payment, okay? If the chaff 100% down payment is $1 more than the cash offer, they're going to take the chaff 100% down payment. That's what's good about HUD, because that really gives the owner occupant a fighting chance, especially in a market like this. So it's very equitable. So we'll go to line 6A. And now I don't suggest you do this all the time. You know, I suggest you only do this, you know, where you feel it's absolutely necessary. And let's move that commission amount down $500, see what happens, or $450, make it easy. We'll do that to $3,000. Your net just to HUD just went up. Okay, see that? So that's one little tool that you have in your toolbox to potentially get a deal done, especially if you have a client that says, I absolutely won't go higher than this. And I'm going to explain to you why that matters even more. So, and we can't really show it to you. I'm going to go into a little weed here, but I think it's important and I think you may appreciate it. If there is no acceptable offer submitted to HUD on the property, this is the only time you're going to get an email where they're going to counter you. They're not only going to counter you, they're going to counter everyone that submitted an offer. And they're going to tell you what their lowest net amount acceptable is. Okay. So say you offered 50,000 and they come back to you and say, we won't take any less than $100,000. Okay. Now you may think that's a $100,000 offer price. No. Okay. Line 3, your offer price. Okay. But then you have the net. When HUD comes back to you and says, we will not take any less, that in this case, we'll just keep it at 115. Okay. We offered 115 here. You see your net is 105. The net needs to be 115, not your offer price. Okay. When they come back to you. So this is where if your client says, I absolutely will not pay more than, you know, a certain amount of money, that's where you play with your commission if you have to get that net number where HUD would want it. That I know that's a little tricky, but if you're in the situation, you'll see what we mean by that. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. All right, let's go down. So you talk about who you can only choose owner occupant, and because it's in the owner occupant period only. And I suggest to everyone that you choose may hold such offer as a backup to accepted offer. If your client is really hot on this property, you put that in there, because if you're the second highest offer and that first offer that was chosen and not yours, for whatever reason, never executes the contract or falls out really early in the contract period, it won't go back on the market. It'll automatically default to your offer next once it's canceled. Now, that's not the case if it's been under contract for a while. You know, I'm not sure what those parameters look like internally. But if you hold it as a backup and you're the second highest offer, you just increase your chances tenfold by getting that property automatically accepted for your buyer without it going back on the market. Okay, very important. A lot of agents don't understand that. Okay, you have to state if you're an employee or not, or if you are affiliated with an employee or a HUD listing broker. Very important. Don't mess this up. Go to your broker, find out. Your broker will lose the contract to list HUD houses if one of the agents buys ones for themselves and it's found out. Okay, so it's important that you go to your broker and say, hey, do we list them? And if we do, then you can't buy them for yourself or your family members, your immediate family. Okay, and then you have to disclose if you're an agent or have a purchase interest in it. Okay, and then we're going to go down. This is the information you need for your buyer. Again, where's your buyer in this? No signatures needed yet, right? Nothing. It's all you. You have to put in their social security number. It's the federal government. That's required. Okay. We're just going to go ahead and fill this out really quickly. You can see it's very standard information. And then after you do this, you'll see you can add another purchaser below that, which we won't do here. Okay. Now, buyers select closing agent information. What is that? It's the buyer's attorney. A lot of times the buyers don't have an attorney yet, right? So you can manage this in one of two ways. You can hurry up, scramble, and get an attorney, right? But in this market, do you have time to wait? Do you have time to, no, it's like now. So what you can do is you can just put your favorite attorney in there. It's not a contract, okay? You just put, it'll automatically populate. So when you start putting the name of an attorney, they'll automatically populate. If for whatever reason you can't get the buyer to get an attorney when you need it, say that, you know, this offer period is gonna expire that night and you need to get an offer in, put an attorney in there that you work with. You can change it. So if your offer gets accepted, you don't have to panic. Oh my gosh, you know, I had this attorney my buyer didn't agree to. No, you can change it right away to whatever. In the meantime, you tell your client, listen, I need you to get an attorney like now. And if your offer, if it's accepted, we need it. And then you can switch the attorney during the offer process, signatures and things like that. It's a pain in the butt though. So, you know, try to have your buyers have an attorney in the wings when you're looking at HUD houses. Okay, so it'll auto-populate for you. I'm not going to get into specific requirements with that in this presentation. Okay, and then you confirm who you are. Very important, your email. You verify it's correct, because this information here, if it's not correct, you're never going to get the emails when they accept your offer. You're not going to get a phone call. You're going to get an email. Now, we'll reach out to you, but if we don't have your correct email, we won't know it. So it's important that your email is correct. Double, triple, quadruple check this. Very important. I don't know how many agents have lost deals because, oh, I never got the email. And that's not a happy day for anyone. Okay. So you can obviously see you're responsible for reviewing all the bid information, and then you hit continue. Yes, thanks, Doug. You have a certain limit to submit your offer. It will reset. I forget what it is. I think it's 15 or 15 minutes or so. So yeah, you might want to do some practice. You could just, you know, run through this in the time, or else it's going to reset on you. Okay. And it will give you, you know, some notices here of your information needs to be correct. And the closing agent needs to be correct. Okay, this is your review screen. All right, you're going to review everything, make sure it's good. And then once you review that, you just go down, you click a box, and you hit confirm this bid, which we're not going to do today. What that's going to do is that is going to then spit out an email to you and a screen, which will give you a bid confirmation number. And the bid confirmation number, which it doesn't show here, is how you'll check your bid status. Okay. Let's go back to the slideshow. So that wasn't so hard. You realize you didn't need your buyer in any of that, did you? Just their information. So you could do that in your office, wherever at home. Okay. Check bid results. All right. On the deadline date, all offers are reviewed and then accepted, rejected, or countered. And I talked to you about that counter process. Only if they don't accept an acceptable bid, they counter everyone that submitted an offer to what their minimum net is, not the offer price, the minimum net to HUD. Okay, they'll notify you via email, and you'll also get an email from us. And if we don't get a response from you will try to call you after a day or so before they kick it out. Because if they don't hear back from you within 48 hours, it just automatically gets canceled. Okay. And we'll notify you with instructions. All right, again, I talked about the counteroffer already, and we can go through with this. Oh yeah, and HUD doesn't counter. If they have an acceptable bid, they'll just take it. There's no counters, there's no highest and best, there's nothing like that. Deposits, $50,000 property or less, 500. There's not too many of those today. $1,000 up to $250,000 purchase and a $2,000 minimum. That's it. That's the way it is. You can't even offer more if you wanted to as a deposit. So there's no competitive advantage to, oh, I'll give a $5,000 deposit. You can't do it. So that's just, it's the same for everyone. Okay. You're responsible for delivering that. And we're not going to get into the details of that today. Only certified funds. And the closing agent information needs to be correct. And we talked about that, how to get around that. Okay, exactly as shown. Doug, how many times he's dealt with this? Highlighted it. So this is basic information. And by the way, we're going to send this to you folks. So don't worry about missing any of this. Okay. Forfeitures, we'll talk a little bit about that. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. If you're made aware that the purchase is not going to close, you have to tell us immediately. Very important. And if they're not going to close, you have to submit documentation why. Whether it's a home inspection, they're not happy with that, or they can't get financing. If you're an owner occupant and you're not happy with the condition of the property, you supply the home inspection. You must supply the home inspection, or you will not get your earnest money back on an owner occupant property. You will always get it back if you supply a home inspection report and a cancellation letter stating the condition issue. You will always get your earnest money deposit back as an owner occupant if you supply a mortgage denial letter. Okay, but if you do not supply those, you will not get the deposit back. Investors do not get their deposit back. Now, that may sound harsh, no matter what. So always going in, you tell your investor, you're going in as an investor. If you back out for any reason, you're not getting your deposit back. The only time I've seen it is when there was an undisclosed environmental. That's where I've seen them give deposit backs before. And there may be other reasons as well. I'm not going to cover them here, but that will be in another presentation. Okay. Pre-closing walkthrough, right? You've gone through your inspections, you've got your financing, and you're gonna go and do your walkthrough, right? Typical like any other transaction. Here's the only difference, and it's important for you to know this because I hate it when properties, fall out, days before the closing. So you went in, all the plumbing was there when you submitted your offer, everything was hunky-dory. Then you go for your walkthrough a day before the closing and the plumbing's missing, right? Nobody likes this. Now, you and the buyer typically have the expectation that the seller is either going to replace the plumbing, which HUD will not, right? Or you're going to get a credit for the cost that it would cost for the plumbing to be replaced, right? Sounds reasonable. Well, the government does things a little different. Typically, you're not going to get a credit for the full cost to bring that property as if it had all the plumbing again. What you're going to get is what the value typically, and this is my experience now, this is not kind of taught by them or anything, but this is my experience. You're going to get what the value of that plumbing in place was, the actual plumbing itself. So if the plumbing was 30 years old, they're not going to give you $1,000 for that plumbing or $1,500 it would cost to put it back. They're going to typically give you of the worth of that plumbing. So what's that copper that was 30 with depreciation? What's 30-year-old copper pipe worth? A couple of $100? That's kind of how it operates. So it's important going into these that your client understands that if there's condition issues, they're going to offer really small credits for issues. But you do have the right to back out if that happens. But they're not going to give you full retail brand new plumbing credit if there's vandalism or anything like that. Post-closing, you do your walkthrough and then you coordinate and you change the locks, okay? Immediately. Lots of people have keys to these locks. They change the keys every 6 months now, but everyone has these locks. So make sure you tell your clients, change their locks immediately on these properties. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, we're going to put my email address in the chat box, and then you can send me email questions, or if anyone has any questions they want to raise here.
That was a great presentation, Mike, and there are some very good questions in the chat currently.
There are. Okay. Okay, great. Let me open that up here. I'm new to this Zoom, so it's bear with me, guys.
So I can ask, so Diane is asking, if bidding for an investor, does hard money lender get entered as cash?
I think that is, no, I think there's a space for hard money. If not, you would just put it in as cash, but there is a space for hard money.
All right. And Paul asked if he could help a relative or child buy one, but you covered that and said that you can't do it within the family.
You can if your brokerage is not a HUD listing broker.
Okay. And then Paul asked if you can do a list of several adjacent towns. So I think he's asking if you can have more than one town on your search.
I don't think so. I think you have to do individual. But I may be wrong on that.
Okay, and then
have to give it a try.
Another agent is asking if she can set up just an area where there are no HUD listings currently.
Yes. Yeah. So when she does the search, nothing will pop up, and she can save that search, and then as things pop up, she'll get notified.
Excellent. And will the save search fire with any status change deposit to active, or is it some specific time of day? That's Paul.
I'm not quite sure. I get status changes at different times of the day. I think it's internally when that happens. So however they're working it internally at HUD. But you'll definitely be the most informed agent. And the status changes you really are looking for, what you're notified of, is a new listing. And when it basically, it's a new listing. So when something goes under deposit, you're not going to get a notification. But when it comes off deposit and comes back active again, that's when you'll get one. And typically you'll get that notification. You're going to get that way before you see MLS status change, which is where your competitive advantage comes in, especially when they're opening offers daily. It's past that initial 10-day period. And then they're opening daily. That's where you can really be the first one at the table and hopefully the first offer viewed.
Excellent. Now Tom is asking for 203K. When do you need to get your contractor in?
Well, once you get your accepted bid, ideally you want to get them in the next day. With the current climate, I used to say, when you had some time to view a property, there wasn't a lot of offer activity like it is now, I would say, hey, try to kind of get that done when there's interest. Maybe you're negotiating a contract to get ahead of the game. But now you wait till you're under contract because your chances obviously of getting the property are much lower now. You wait till you're under contract and then immediately get your contractor in. Quick as possible. That's the delay in 203Ks most of the time. And make sure you have a good lender as well that does a lot of these. Very important.
All righty. And then can you use the $100 down program for homes not move-in ready properties?
So the insured escrow, the uninsured 203K eligible, yes, but the regular uninsured, not 203K eligible, no, because basically it's only if you have an FHA loan, right? The $100 down only applies if the borrower is using an FHA loan.
Thank you. And now we have another question. How can nonprofits, oh, my question moved. Let's see here. Sorry about that. Getting more questions in. Okay, how can nonprofits benefit from incentive programs, i.e. $1 programs for HUD home purchases? Where is that information found?
You can find that on the HUD website. You can also find links on blbresources.com. And then you basically research the good neighbor next door. But typically what you have to do is not only are you a nonprofit, but you have to get registered as the nonprofit with an NAID specific number. So this really gets into the weeds. So you set up your nonprofit and then you go to HUD with your tax ID as a nonprofit, and they will assign you a nonprofit NAID, almost like a broker, right? And then you submit your offer, can submit directly under the good neighbor next door programs and things like that. Okay. So that's a whole different process.
Excellent. And now we have another question, which is, who is best to do title search? No, they say you can use their attorney. Always question and suggest buyer has their own attorney. Your thoughts on that?
So that would be typically with an REO. But with HUD Homes, that's not the case. So HUD does not have a closing attorney. They have a closing department. Okay. And so you always have your own closing attorney as the buyer in a HUD transaction. There's no other option.
All right, and we have a comment here from an agent who said that they've already done a couple HUD cases without knowing a lot of the information that you shared today, and said thank you so much. The presentation, she loved it, and he's looking forward to future presentations with more agents involved. So I have been talking to Michael, and we're looking to maybe work this into a series where we can continue to provide you with great information on HUD.
Yeah, sorry for the short notice, and with this, it's our first Zoom, board presentation, and so we'll have a lot more, marketing with it, and we're gonna do a series. I'm gonna put some series together specifically for home inspections with HUDs, specifically for contracts, so that we can dive real deep in. Anyone who wants to really become an expert and understand the process. Today, we just really wanted to give you the competitive advantages to kind of get you a little excited about how you can maybe leverage some of the quirks on HUD houses and identify some buyers that could really benefit from understanding those competitive advantages and how to move that money around.
Excellent. And then they're also asking if they'll have access to the recording. We will be posting the recording on the NHMR YouTube page once we process it. And so you will have access to it. And there's one more question. Last question will be, well, aside from somebody asking for your email address, the last question will be, can I still represent nonprofit as my buyers?
Yes, I think you can, but you have to get paid by them. HUD's not going to offer a commission usually. I may be wrong in that on the exclusive period. And but I'm not 100% sure on my answer I just gave you. So I'll have to look into that further specifically. I know on Good Neighbor Next Door, you can represent them, but you have to get paid by them, not by HUD. But in terms of an exclusive nonprofit, I'm not sure about that. I have to look a little deeper.
Wonderful. And if you'd like to say your email, I can type it into the chat.
Yep,
Or-
it is. Let's see, I think I can do it to everyone in the meeting. I'll go ahead. Yep, if you have any questions, here's my email address. You can send them to me. And just make sure in the subject line, you put HUD presentation question.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Doug, for running the background. And thanks, everybody, for participating.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.